So Rebecca, back to my question about the emotions driving the electorate. What do you think?
I mean, nobody's going to like this answer, but I think it's a mix of both, right? And I think it depends on which party you're in and which state you're in, and at least as far as the national level goes. I do think that campaigns, again, part of why I'm trying to separate and will be removing myself from running candidate campaigns is, at least in Oregon, hope and fear is fear is what a lot of people try to lean into, the anger and fear part that I have seen. It's not that that's how people lead or that's all how campaigns go, but that's where you're trying to get voters energized in certain areas. Others, it's compassion. And those are the campaigns I like to run. These are the priorities. This is what we care about. This is how we're going to focus on getting things done. We have to remember also that it's not just campaigns, but it's where the world is going. And there's a big difference between what happened in 2016, 2018, 2020 was a huge year for everybody. We have to meet people where they are. And there's not just one blanket answer for it. I would guarantee that you go one or two counties, east of here, what drives them is going to be different than one or two counties south of here. And representatives at the state level or council level or whichever it should be should accurately reflect or try to help their voters move towards either of those, right? Move away from the anger and towards the compassion side. I don't think that means you don't inform them of what's going on. I mean, we have problems, right? I mean, the city of Portland has issues. I'm thankful that they have such an enormous slate of candidates who are running, that they are getting along. Maybe it is a new chapter for the people that live a mile outside of Portland and have worked here to say, okay, I'll take it. Let's see what we can do with it. Because what we don't love as voters or people in this situation is the 7-second tagline, the thing that gets you to do the vote, and then nothing happens, right? There's no accountability. Everybody just moves on and we hope people forget about it until the next cycle where we bring it up and hold it against you, right? Or until the next cycle where you try to pretend that that wasn't part of your role. So, long answer, it really just depends. But I hope that we are trying to help voters and help people and help communities make decisions based on compassion. And that doesn't mean they shouldn't be upset, but it should mean we're giving them something to look forward to. Not a constant stream of text messages and emails about how bad everything is. I don't think any of us need to be reminded of that. I don't think it needs to be leverage that's used against us. And I see campaigns, both parties, all parties. We can leave out Portland City Council because I don't have time to follow 100 candidates. I'm sure they haven't done it. But they're using that stress as leverage to win or to raise money. And I just don't think that's a healthy environment for any of us. So yeah, I mean, that's the fun strategy of it, is like, what do you talk to voters about, which issues, and how do you help them get to a place where they're making the right decision? And it really does vary.
Well, I wonder what it's going to take, and then maybe as we talk about this, we could look at the Attorney General's race, but what is it going to take for a Republican in the state of Oregon to win a statewide office? Because Democrats hold all the levers of power. Yep. And the legislature, and correct me if I'm wrong,
but it doesn't look like they're getting a supermajority in the House.
I was just going to ask you that. I was just going to ask.
And I should say on those state races, so Treasurer, Secretary of State, correct me if I'm wrong, Controller, but I don't think we have calls from the Oregonian or AP in any of those key state races at this point, though. So
it's been since Dennis Richardson won Secretary of State in 2016. Before that, I think it was Jack Roberts, maybe in 1994. We just don't see a lot of Republicans win statewide office in Oregon. What's it going to take, do you think, for that to change?
Well, one, it's going to take better campaign strategy across the board. And I don't mean candidate Lathrop. I mean how Republicans in Oregon are perceived and how they are running campaigns. And I know I'm one of them, and I'm not being hard on my colleagues. I'm just, if you're in Oregon, you can't run a campaign to get Republicans elected in Democratic areas by negatively talking about Democrats. That's not the information that we want. We're trying to say it should not be partisan, but often it becomes partisan, right? You see Democrats get thrown up, or you see Republicans, and again, it goes both sides. I just happen to be the Republican at the table. But I think we have to, again, have a long-term plan that lets people know that there's an individual who's running. It's not necessarily that they're a Republican or a Democrat, because I know that matters, but also the issues need to be things that we all care about. And when you live in a state that's largely blue or largely purple or has a lot of moderate Republicans, you have to meet those voters on the issues that they are. And I think we have a lot of great candidates. Will Lathrop is an incredible candidate. Attorney General is a scary title. Most people don't know what it is. We live in a blue state, and when people are they've got a lot going on. They're not really sure. They haven't had time to look into it. Annie and I have said it. They
y'all's
go home.
credit.
They go home. And by that, I mean to their party. They go to a comfort zone.
To y'all's credit, like he is probably the best statewide candidate you've recruited in
Yeah, he's incredible.
a generation.
That's saying a lot, right?
And when you're running in a state with a Democratic advantage, you need to outspend the Democrat to
Or
win,
you need-
and you
yeah,
didn't do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I was not
great
in his
recruit,
campaign, but
great recruit.
But again, that's not true because in 2010 we were outspent by every
Sure.
single Democrat that we ran a campaign against. I know it's a different environment, but it worked, and I just feel like, and I see that in both sides, both parties in all areas of the state. I feel like sometimes we go to more conservative parts of the state and Democratic leaders or more moderate leaders are a little bit discounted. It's like, no, there are still 673 Democrats in this county or this city. And so I feel like the partisanship, obviously we talk about it all the time, has been the biggest problem. Mm-hmm. It's been encouraged, it maybe is the best way to explain what I've been sharing tonight. The partisanship's been encouraged. That's not going to work for conservatives or Republicans in Oregon right now. It doesn't matter that Trump's on the top of the ballot. He's not going to win in Oregon. So how do you have a different conversation?
Would it make a difference, do you think, if Oregon had Washington's top two, where like last election and this primary, the Republicans and Democrats are all on the same ballot, and the top two moved on to the general election. Would that make a difference, do you think?
Possibly, but any election experiment and voting experiment is going to take a few rounds before it balances out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I support the concept of open primary, but that would be difficult in Oregon for a Republican to fully come out the next year ahead, probably, right? I mean, it would take a couple of years before we could get the electorate to respond to something and vote the right way. I don't think the two-party system is Oregon's problem.
Hey, we're talking like it's a two-party system. And
Right.
we got to point out this interesting twist in the treasurer's race.
Sure,
right?
sure,
so
sure.
It looks like Senator Steiner's, she's looking pretty good, like she's running away with it. And you're like, where's that other 5% of the vote? Who's getting it?
Yep.
So the Working Families Party,
Mary King, right?
or Mary King, in order to remain a party in Oregon, you either have to have a certain percentage of the electorate be registered to your party, or you need to get 1% in a statewide race. Right.
Right.
So I guess with motor voter and with the increase in numbers, the Working Families Party's path to remaining a party was running Mary King. And it looks like she's going to get at least 1% and they will remain a party. But we do talk like it's a two-party system and there are three parties.
Sure.
That makes that race a little
there's
more
certainly
interesting.
more, right?
It's still probably, it's probably been over since 8:15.